Everyone, welcome to the new video in our Directus playlist. And in this video, we'll be covering roles in the Directus Data Studio. So in the previous video, you have seen that how we can, connect all those access policies directed directly to our users, right? And this will help us to build all that authorization and stuff in Directus Data Studio, right? Now, the problem with access policies are that they don't have a meaningful name, point number one. And point number two is that as your project grows, you will be having multiple access policies. So you have to somehow remember that what policies you have to assign to your end users, right? So let's say we're having one user, which maybe let's say it's admin, right? So let's call it as an admin. And let's say we get another user, which is just your, the writer who writes content on your I would say Directus Data Studio, right? And there can be another user which is only I would say the viewer, right? And depending on the use case, you will be having multiple users which will be having multiple roles, right? So the problem here will be that let's say if your project grows, you will be having multiple access policies which will grow time to time, right? So let's assume that you will be having 10 to 20 access policies. Then remembering what policy to assign to which user will be a very difficult task for us, right? So let me give an example of what do I mean by that, right? So if you come to access policies, like right now you can see that we are having only 3 access policies, right? Now just assume that there are nearly about 20 access policies, or let's say 10 access policies over here, right? And let's say if someone user with our writing capability joins our team, so we have to grant all those access policies, right? So again we have to go to our user section, then we have to click that user, and we have to scroll down to our admin sections, and here we can select all those existing policies, right? Now let's say if this list is containing near 10 to 20 policies, so I do have to remember each time what policies do I have to assign to a user who is having the writing privilege, right? So this will get a lot more difficult when your I would say application scales up, right? And this is where I would say roles come into the picture, right? Now roles are somewhat in which you can group multiple access policies, and then if you assign that role to your end user, those access policies will be automatically assigned, right? So let me give an example. So let's say this is our roles. Now the roles can have access to multiple policies. So this will be something like this and something like this. And again, once you have that role, you can then provide that role to any user, let's say to our this admin, or maybe to this user, which is having the writing privilege, right? So once you assign that role, those access policies will be automatically granted, right? So this is where I would say roles help you a lot, right? So let me give a demonstration of what this look like in Directus Data Studio, right? So if you come to our, let's say Directus Data Studio, you go to settings, you can see that we are having a separate portion of our user roles, right? So here you can come over here, you can create a meaningful name to your role, and then you can assign access policies to your that role. Okay. So right now you can see if I come to access policies, you can see that we are having a policy of end users in which we have given, I would say, a privilege to our post, right? So let's say, let's remove all this. I don't want to give any privilege to a post. So let's say if we are giving a privilege to our to-dos, and I want to give all the privilege to our to-dos collection, right? So once you save this thing, and let me just give it a meaningful name as well. So let's say uh, all permissions for to-dos, right? Not a good name, but this will work fine for now. So once you save this thing, and now let's move on to our role. So now you can create a role. So let's say I can create a role, and let's name it as something like maybe our writer role. Okay. So he is our writer. And once we save this thing, you can see that we are having a writer role over here. You can select icon if you want. You can provide a good description if you want. You can even select a parent role. So you can also have a hierarchy of parent-child relationship in which, if you mention the parent role, it will automatically, inherit all those access policies of the parent role as well, right? But right now, we don't want that parent role thing. I will just, assign the policy. So let's go to editing, and let's select that policy, which was all permission of to-dos, and let's save this thing, and let's save this, right? Now this is done. So what we have done so far is that we have given a role, and that role is of IC writer, and that is having the access policies of, let's say, all permission in to-dos, right? So that's what we have done so far, right? Again, you can ignore the spelling mistakes. I'm not good with the spellings. So now let's go back to our, let's say, users, and now let's go with John Doe. And now what we are doing, let's scroll down to admin options, and right over here you can see that we have granted access policies, right? Now what we can do is we can just delete this thing over here, okay? And let's save this thing. Now let's go again, and if you scroll down, you can see that we have not attached any access policies to our end user. But now what we can do is we can assign that role to this John Doe user, right? So we can select over here, and you can give the title role, and you save this thing and save this thing. Now, through that role, we will be having the access to all those access policies, right? And we can check that out. So once we sign out from here, and let's log in with our john@test.com, and the password is always the admin thing. So admin, and let's sign in. And now, if you close all these dialogues and if you go to to-dos, you can see that we are still having the permission of all the to-dos right over here. Okay, so you can come over here. You can even, select description, image, and status, because we have not restricted that, right? We have given all the privileges, right? So we can add our to-dos if you want to, and we can even delete the to-dos if you want to. So you can come over here. You can delete this thing as well, and you can edit it. You can view it. So you are having all the access policies, right? And this is how roles work in Directus Data Studio, right? So whenever your application grows up, I think it is good practice to always group your access policies inside your roles, because this will give you a meaningful name by which you can authorize, I would say, users, which can come and do and perform a lot of different operations in your Directus Data Studio. And this is one way of, I would say, implementing authorization through this roles scenario in Directus Data Studio. So hope this helped you out, and you are having fun in learning Directus. So in the next and coming on videos, we will jump to our different scenarios in which I think it's a good practice to go for our, I would say, workflows, in which we will be seeing that how we can drag and drop and create some of the flexibility in Directus Data Studio, and we can also fulfill different business use cases by using that workflow thing in Directus Data Studio. So that with that said, see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.